Hello and welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, we are in the middle of a very exciting round of assembly elections. Of course, all the focus is on the battle for West Bengal, the battle between Mamata Banerjee and the BJP Prime Minister Narendra Modi, really. But the larger question here really is that what does this pertain for the politics at the center? Can the opposition actually take on the BJP in some states? Mamata, of course, is going to be holding the opposition's flag high. But what about the Congress? Because the Congress is also taking on the BJP, at least, from the front in two states. Kerala, where the Congress, former President Rahul Gandhi is camping. He's made that a battle of prestige. And of course, in Assam, where the Congress is really the only opposition to the BJP. So will the Congress also pull its part? We're also having some very interesting developments happening outside this scenario of the assembly elections, which is, of course, Arvind Kejriwal. He's looking to expand his horizon beyond Delhi. He's taking on the BJP in Delhi and also UP. He's gone to Gujarat. What is Kejriwal up to? Are the opposition parties sensing a vacuum and other people are rushing into a space where the Congress is not delivering? To discuss the impact of the assembly elections, the battle, for the opposition space, I have with me an interesting panel. We have, of course, Sanjay Jha. He's a former Congress spokesperson. He's the author of two very interesting books. The Great Unraveling is something I've just actually finished reading last month, Sanjay. Sandeep Ghosh, he's a political commentator and an op-ed writer. Rashid Kirwai, author of 24 Akbar Road. Ashutosh, he's the founding editor of satyahindi.com. So Sanjay, where is, you've also been, behind a lot of things that are happening within the Congress. You're a preview to a lot that what is happening. So how important are these assembly elections to the workings of the Congress party?
I think it's critical, Priya. Frankly, May 2nd results are going to be watershed for the Congress party's future. Because truth be said, we are stakeholders in some of the most critical states, Assam and Kerala. If both the states are those that the Congress has governed in the past, in fact, until the BJP won the last time for 15 years, Mr. Gogoi was the chief minister of Assam. There are issues there which, frankly speaking, the Congress ought to make political capital on. The CA, NRC, NPR issue is the central core issue on which I think the entire coalition is working. And if the Congress is able to upset the apple cart of the BJP, who I believe in the opinion polls are still slightly ahead, that will be the real headline story of May 2nd. The disappointment for Congress could come in Kerala, which is surprising because now Rahul Gandhi is also an MP from Wayanad. So there is a lot of investment of the Congress reputation and brand in Kerala, which has flip-flopped since 1987. But again, the trends indicate that the LDF may be ahead, which leaves the Congress with, basically being the third player in West Bengal, where the Congress and the left will hope that the Trinamool doesn't do so well and they are able to support the government. The fourth, of course, is Tamil Nadu, where I believe it's a fait accompli. I do believe that DMK Congress combined is likely to win Tamil Nadu. Puducherry, again, I think the Congress has done a wise strategy by giving DMK a lot more seats than it has taken for itself, which gives Puducherry, again, an opportunity for the Congress to reclaim it. But the critical issue, Priya, is this, that the party has been on a losing streak. We have had issues of a vacuum in political leadership. And the party has looked fairly emaciated. And the G23 has actually been talking about strengthening the party. So just to wrap up my first introductory comment, if the May 2nd verdict goes against the Congress in Assam and Kerala, then I think you are going to see a demand for a new leadership within the Congress. Then I think it'll have an extremely telling commentary on where we are going to be headed going in the months ahead.
Rashid, can you take up the last sentence of Sanjay's? If the results go against the Congress, do you see actually a new leadership means someone else other than Rahul? Because he is the de facto leader, whatever designation he gives. How will that impact Rahul's chances?
I think Priya, unfortunately, I have a disagreement with Mr. Sanjay Jha, just on the basis of my own interaction with the Congress people. They think that actually G23 is helping Rahul Gandhi's cause by becoming a faction. Because if there was a debacle, then all round there would have been sort of manthan, introspection, a degree of concern. Now it will be how to save Rahul Gandhi. So that drive is going to be there. As somebody was telling me yesterday, Congress party, he said, is a bit like Pakistani army. Each time it suffers a debacle, it emerges much stronger. It tightens its grip. So that holds true for Gandhi family with no comparison with Pakistani army, that the absence of a choice, an option. Average congressman is usually not only indebted, he cannot rely on any other person. What prevented Shashi Tharoor from contesting assembly elections and becoming a player? What prevented the G23 to fan out in these 5 states and campaign? These are the questions that are, have largely to do with the internal Congress politics. And I think the Congress is not going to feel very bad about loss of Kerala, simply because it is not the BJP which is going to gain. So it is the left which is a kind of ally in Bengal. This is a piecemeal strategy. See, their congressmen are, on an average, I think they're happy to be unhappy.
But Sanjay, you quickly want to come in before I bring the others?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to correct Rashid there. He asked a very fundamental question. Who stops the G23 from campaigning in the state elections? You know who? The Congress top leadership. Look at the West Bengal star campaigners list. It's conspicuous by the fact that not a single member of the G23 has been chosen. Does it make any sense? Does it make political sense?
Actually, about Jiten Prasad is in charge. He was a signatory of G23.
You know who he reports to?
Okay.
Now you're changing the goalpost.
Sandeep, how important are these elections to the fate of the opposition? We've discussed BJP earlier, but let's now focus on the opposition.
I think this roundtable has been kind of hijacked by Rashid Kidwai's top lines. I think that's all you needed. I think all of us, whatever comments we make right now will be kind of redundant. So these elections, I think, are essential, not as opposition as a whole, but each of the individuals to prove their own worth and viability. So whether it's Mamata Banerjee or to some extent Congress or DMK, everybody has to, first of all, they are kind of establishing their credentials for 2024 for any kind of configuration which goes forward. First of all, you have to win your own turf and thereby assert. So that is definitely important. Reacting, if I may, to Sanjay's points, one is, Congress is in a very, I like Rashid's term about being unhappy, happy to be unhappy types. Even if, let's assume for a moment, Congress does well in the states which Sanjay mentioned, the reality will be it will do well despite the Gandhis, not because of the Gandhis. But after that, the credit will again go to the Gandhis for what they have done, and that will, to my mind, hold back the regional leadership again from coming onto its own and building up from where they might if they have a positive result. So that's a dilemma of Congress. I would mention only thing is that all of us are probably looking at a linear solution to this Gandhi versus G23 or where Congress will go next step. My own feeling is that it'll probably come, in a very unexpected way, which today none of us are very clearly able to visualize. But change it must. It cannot continue in this current status of, being totally, it's a leaderless, visionless, entity which is just floating in vacuum. Nature abhors vacuum, something will emerge. Now, how and what will emerge, I think, honestly, certainly I don't have a clue. One last point, what's happening today in Rajasthan? Between, again, Sachin Pilot's thing coming up, Rashid commented on it. Now, I think there's a Hobson's choice for the Gandhis. Now, if they back Sachin Pilot, where does Ashok Gehlot go? And he's not somebody who's going to just drop. And they need people like Ashok Gehlot to hold on against the G23 or anybody else. So either way, I think the Gandhis stand to lose. And maybe from these kind of tensions, dynamic tensions, you will find something coming out. And that is where the next phase, it will not be a decisive phase for Congress, but that will what will see the transformation and the evolution of Congress, whatever you say, 5.0 or 10.0, whatever it goes on.
I don't know. I also tend to agree with Rashid in that, something needs to happen, but will it happen? Will some leader take the plunge? Ashutosh, do you see anyone taking the initiative? This group is there, of course, but we need that one face they're going to put up against the Gandhis. Will it be Shashi Tharoor?
See, Priya, first of all, we have to understand the entire opposition in a context. The two things which are the basic premises. The first of all, the country is facing the Indian politics is working in a very unprecedented situation. Unprecedented situation on the 4 counts. 1, unprecedented leadership, unprecedented ideology, unprecedented resources, unprecedented organization. So these had never been so clubbed together so mightily and so massively. That's point number 1. The point number 2 is that the BJP is defeatable. And I'm saying, I'm putting my neck out. BJP is defeatable, but is Mr. Modi defeatable? That's a question that we have to ask. Now, the issue is, you take the example from since the Goa since Goa elections, if you see, our UP elections, the BJP has lost 10 states. It's not a joke, but nobody talks about it. Even the G23 doesn't talk about it. Today, and I can count all those states. Even after the 2019 parliamentary election, BJP could not form government in Haryana on its own. Jharkhand they lost. Delhi they lost badly. In Bihar they just managed. Again they are in a tightly contested election fighting in Assam. In Bengal, because of all hullabaloo, I'm very sure the Mamata Banerjee is going to win. So the issue is, can Modi be defeated? If we talk about this, if we have a premise that can Modi be defeated, work on that, and then the opposition comes together. Unfortunately, today there is a situation that everybody wants to blame Rahul Gandhi. Everybody wants to blame Congress party. But everybody has forgotten that 10 years BJP was in wilderness. Totally in wilderness. In 2009, one Nitin Gadkari was to be brought from the Nagpur to Delhi to lead the BJP. And Gang of Four, the top mighty leaders of the BJP, they were not even asked to run the government. So my question is very, very simple. BJP is defeatable, but can Modi be defeated? How about G23? I'm dead sure. Anand Sharma, Ghulam Nabi Azad, let them go and campaign. How many votes they can bring for the Congress party? The only man who can bring votes to the Congress party is Priyanka Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, and Rahul Gandhi. Despite if you take them out, Congress stands nowhere. The issue is, if Ghulam Nabi Azad, Anand Sharma, G23 wants to do something, they should take up the issue. They should go to the street. They should hit to the streets and raise issues which connects with the people. Only then the leadership will go to them. Otherwise, just leadership cannot be given on a platter.
May I, before Sanjay comes in, I'll take. You see, Ashutosh, I think I'm talking as a totally a political man. A lot of us make an assumption that Congress has to become from 0 to 100. So if despite a Rahul Gandhi and the Sonia Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, Congress ends up getting only 5, I'm just saying figuratively. And let's say if the Anand Sharma, Ghulam Nabi Azad kind of people come in front and they get 4, absolutely, it is not harming Congress. So they will have to go through that trough, and they're already in that trough. Now, who will, one thing you said, nobody else can rescue you from the trough, and so you remain in the trough with the Gandhis. Other thing is saying that fair enough, we are in a trough, so let's see if somebody else is able to salvage us through a different churn and a different process. If we look at day one, whether there is any substitute for Rahul Gandhi, there isn't. By Rahul Gandhi, I mean the Gandhi family. That is how the construct of the whole thing is. Just like many business families, many business, family businesses, etc., have grown initially against one family, but over a period of time, they've developed a new leadership.
Priya,
sorry, go ahead.
Sanjay quickly come.
I want to respond to Sandeep. See, my grudge with not grudge, but my argument with the G23 is how many of them has raised an issue which connects with the people? None. In 1967, when Mrs. Gandhi was put into the back burner, she was called the Gungi Gudiya. What did she do? She raised issues connected with the people. In 1987, 88, VP Singh, he raised issues connected with the people and became a leader. In 2011, Arvind Kejriwal, he raised an issue connected with the people and became a leader. Mamata Banerjee, in 1996, she walked away with the entire Congress party. And Sharad Pawar, unfortunately, is a highly rated politician, but he could not walk in Maharashtra. He's just a leader of 1/4 of Maharashtra. So he is hyperbolically given a very strong position. Unfortunately, he doesn't. In comparison to Mamata Banerjee, stands nowhere.
Sanjay, G23 doesn't have an issue that can captivate people, doesn't have a face. Pertinent questions being raised.
Well, Priya, with due respects to my friend Ashutosh, but I think his entire argument was very counterintuitive. He makes a mention that nobody can win votes for the Congress party but the Gandhis. And this after the Lok Sabha results of 2014 and 19, when the party has touched the abysmal low of 44 and 52 seats. Can we look at the number of states we have lost since 2014, even earlier than that? And even some of the states that the BJP has not done well. Please remember, they were in Rajasthan before, they were in Madhya Pradesh for 15 years, they were in Chhattisgarh for 15 years, they're back in Karnataka, for God's sake. So let's not try and kind of diminish the BJP's stranglehold on the political narrative of India. See, Priya, the fact of the matter is that today the Congress party is allowing itself to be kind of equated or compared with the Samajwadi Party or a BSP or the Jagan Mohan Reddy's party. We are not a family-held party. We are not Shiv Sena. We have to be different. The Congress party, for God's sake, fought for India's freedom struggle. It has stalwarts in its national leadership. The tragedy of the Congress is it has allowed itself to become a very dynastic controlled party that Mr. Modi has made political advantage of. And why shouldn't he, right? I think today people's expectations from the Congress are very different from what they want from the Shiv Sena or Mayawati or Akhilesh Yadav or RJD. Let's be honest, they may be my political alliance partners, but they are family-centered enterprise. The Congress, for God's sake, cannot allow itself to be ridiculed to that same level of comparison. And I do believe, and I do want to mention this, that all this conversation that there is no alternative will only continue till an alternative emerges. And I do feel that Rahul Gandhi today has, he's somebody I personally am very fond of, but I think he has damaged the Congress significantly by not adhering to what he said after resigning in 2019. No Gandhi member will come back is what he said. And today, de facto, 2 years later, the Congress party that should be the challenger to the BJP has not even got a leader which is there in not just symbolic but real terms who can take on the BJP in the states and the national level. And my biggest fear is what I think Ashu and Sandeep rightly mentioned. Even if the Congress were to say extraordinarily do well in 1 or 2 states and maybe even win Assam, the national alternative to Mr. Modi is still going to be vacant. And for the Congress revamping the organization, empowering new leaders, looking at a political strategy, not being, waffling on ideology, these problems are not going to go away. They will still need to be sorted out.
Rasheed, maybe not Manmohan Singh, but Narasimha Rao, I think, is a better example, emerge from one of these leaders.
I think, Priya, it's very difficult. Let me give you, kind of 2 examples, one from Rajya Sabha, other from Lok Sabha. There was a technical issue about Mr. Swapan Das Gupta being nominated member. See, the Congress has a galaxy of, leaders. Look at that deputy leader, Mr. Anand Sharma, or lawyer of a repute, parliamentarian. So many are there in Rajya Sabha. It's entirely packed with a lot of cerebral politicians. No one, and a lot of experience in public life, no one could think of it. It was a young girl from Trinamool who pointed out, and it became a kind of, a minor issue of sorts. You look at Lok Sabha. You see, the Congress appointed Mr. Ramneet Singh Bittu as its leader in the Lok Sabha. Why nobody challenged it? It's just a group of 52. Maybe 5 people could have said, no, we want to contest. And then the whole world would have seen whether Sonia and Rahul would have pushed it. So this whole thing where they can enforce some kind of internal party democracy and put some kind of application, then that is missing. See, they are like a bit like Sharad Pawar. Sharad Pawar's ambition is totally oblivious of of the social of the political realities. He remains undisturbed by reality. Look at him. He takes a Chaco and goes to Kerala and becomes a kind of ally of the left. In Bengal, he's helping Mamata, and at the same time in Maharashtra, he's an ally. He's a ruling party. He's part of ruling party coalition in Maharashtra where Congress is the partner. Now these things don't work. See, whether it's Mamata or M.K. Stalin, when they win and they will look back, they will look for some kind of stability. They don't want this, fishy characters who one state will have one point of view and another. So I agree with Ashutosh that there is no alternative to Modi. I don't see it happening. But you see, the job of Gandhi's or for the political party to live by the day. They have to, win. If they win Assam, I'll tell you, it will be a kind of game changer. Everyone knows, the dynamics of Assam, and a Congress victory, or for the matter, the alliance victory, would be something. It will be a national event, if I may say so.
But Sandeep, how do you see Mamta and the other, Kejriwal's ambitions, Pawar we've talked about, stepping into trying to bring all the opposition together? Because unfortunately, they're also all limited to their own states. Kejriwal is trying to expand, of course.
Yeah, Kejriwal is doing. See, Priya, I have an issue. I think a lot of the way Mamta kind of deviated from her strategy was because she got carried away even in 2014-19 business of a third front, etc., emerging, and she coming as a national alternative. I think these people need to consolidate on their own ground and then very systematically move forward. And hopefully that will happen today, rather than what people try to do is just cobbling up the arithmetic and thinking that, okay, Modi is defeatable if we are all together and the vote shares, everything come in. But all this will have to come through a very, very a natural chemistry, which will have to emerge. I have a different point of view when people like a journalist like you mention a Shashi Tharoor or Sachin Pilot as the answer to Rahul Gandhi. Why? Just because they are suave, they have a TV presence. What else really they do have to command that change? Even if it's a political manager, they may not be. There are maybe people, you cited the example of Narasimha Rao. Narasimha Rao, of course, was a tall leader, but he may not have had that sort of a charisma, but he knew the political management. Shashi Tharoor and Sachin Pilot really don't know. So my point is, we are again limiting ourselves to just the people we see in G23. G23 may throw up somebody else as their thing. So Ghulam Nabi Azad and Anand Sharma may not have an ambition of becoming Congress president, but they may have a view to, let's say, project Sanjay Jha as the next president and build him up over there. I'm not being facetious, Sanjay. I'm just using you as an example. There may be somebody else who they find that, okay, this person can be propped up, because these people are realistic to know that they are kind of past their sell-by date and they themselves cannot be leading from the front. So those things will emerge there. And that's why I said we may not have a linear solution. As far as Kejriwal is concerned, I think you're very right. He sees a vacuum. He sees people, there are no other alternatives, and he is somewhere in that central space, and he can swing left and right. So somewhere he's trying to play a bit of the Hindutva card, somewhere else he's playing to play the common man card. So he is seeing, he obviously has ambitions, and we cannot write him off. Mamta Banerjee will have to, I think, reinvent her own act. What I see is, if, let's say, she does win, as everybody on this panel seem to be very confident, she will probably start then spending more time in national politics. And by default, her nephew and other people will start controlling the state. And then you could have some other combination emerging.
Kejriwal best from all of us. I know all the questions tend to be fielded to you, but what is he thinking? What is he planning? Is he dividing the opposition, or is he actually helping them, or he's playing his own game? He's not a team player.
See, first of all, Arvind Kejriwal had missed the bus. The best opportunity was 2015. Second point, Arvind Kejriwal is a smart politician. He knows the limitations of his ambitions. Thirdly, the whole world might be thinking that he has a national ambition, but his ambition is now confined to the MCD election, which is going to happen next year, somewhere around next year, when the UP election, maybe before that. The last time in the MCD election, he lost very, very badly. So now he wants to control MCD. If he controls MCD, then Kejriwal will be more than happy. About Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, UP, Madhya Pradesh, you all have forgotten that that Aam Aadmi Party contested assembly elections there, and they could not get more than 0.5% or 0.7% votes than that. He's a very, very smart politician. The new physiology which is discovered, कि अगर भारत का झंडा अगर क्या पाकिस्तान में फहराया जाएगा, या जय श्री राम के नारे अगर भारत पे नहीं तो क्या पाकिस्तान में लगाए जाएंगे? This he's saying to influence Delhi voter, because in Delhi, don't forget, BJP is very, very entrenched. BJP controls MCD. BJP also controls all the 7 parliamentary seats. And in between, the Arvind Kejriwal is sandwiched, and he finds it very difficult to work in that. So his basic focus is to somehow win MCD election. If he could win that, he will be more than happy. His nest and ambition has lost the vigor or the rigor which he had earlier.
Thank you so much. I think I can see that we're out of time, but we've discussed all the options really. And at the end of the day, I think the ball really comes back to the Congress court, whether G23 picks it up or the Gandhis themselves step up. That is something we're going to keep discussing. And a lot more shows. I'm going to call you all back. But for now, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching it.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.